Hello and welcome to a new video. Today I would like to show you how you can pimp up your dashboard, even if that is maybe a stupid term, but just to make a dashboard nicer and show you the possibilities of our widgets. So for this video demonstration, we are using the Walter device, and our friends at QuickSpot have created this device in the device integration on Datacake. For those of you that don't know what the Walter is or who QuickSpot is, please check out quickspot.io. The Walter is an ESP32 cellular connected development board, and that has been connected to Datacake using HTTPS directly from the ESP32 over the cellular modem into Datacake. Today I would like to show you how you can improve the representation on the dashboard. Okay, so first of all, let's start with what we have here already. We can see we have 4 different particulate classes all being displayed, just a numerical value, and the first thing I'm going to do is basically add a gauge to it. So we have different kinds of gauges. First of all, let me define a value range. There is a recommendation that you set some limits about 50 and 150, and I think that the World Health Organization says that everything above 50 is critical, so we put it into the range of these here. We have a linear gauge. This was actually the first gauge that we had at all. Then we have a vertical one, a circular one, fill level for fill levels, and compasses for degrees. We stick with circular. I personally prefer this a lot and make it a little bit larger. So now we set up everything already, and we probably don't want to reproduce this on the other ones. So I'm going to delete these here. And then I'm going to basically duplicate this for, 3 times, move them. So let's change this one here to PM 2.5. We also need to adapt the text. We do have various kinds of translations available. You can add translations for different kinds of languages, and if the browser or a public dashboard has been accessed by a browser that has a different language, then it selects the one that you have entered here. If there's no other language, it will always fall back to English because that's the default one. Okay, save this. Then I'm going through this one here as well. That was PM4, data, PM4, save, PM10. Yeah, and now we have changed the value widgets to be a little bit more graphically appealing with having these gauges. Next, there is a chart widget, and that looks already pretty good. We can see that all of the 4 different kinds of particulate sources have been added to the same axis, which is also fine. We can go in here, we can see different kinds of options that we have. Area chart, bar chart doesn't make that much sense here. I personally prefer the area chart, but just to show you how these different kinds of things work, I'm going to play around with that a little bit. Once you selected these sources, you can also bring them on independent axes, but we leave them as they are. We can also define the axis, put them left or right, and then also bring a unit in here. For example, micrograms per cubic meters. You can also hide it. There's also scaling, and I would always recommend you put it to auto, because then it behaves like it scales automatically to the time frame that you selected. In this case, what we're going to do is we can also limit this to 0 and then, for example, put 150, or let's say 50. And then there is reference lines, because this makes sure that if we have a fixed value or a fixed scaling of the axis, we can put a reference line. We want a dashed one, and we want the color red. We don't want to use a config field here, more on that later, a custom value of 50. And we can say like air quality is getting really bad. Maybe putting this to 35. Okay, we can see thicker and then maybe yellow. Something like that. Save this. And now we also made the representation of the chart a little bit better. You can also go ahead and under time frame, select different types of time frames, but we also have the option under appearance to show a button to download the actual data from the chart widget directly as CSV file, and also allow the time frame selection. So now we can go into the chart widget and basically select different types of time frames in here, and then also a custom value. Leave it to default. What you set on the chart is what has been selected on default. But let's make some room. Want to add another widget. We have different kinds of widgets, and what also makes sense here is, for example, the histogram. Usually this sensor also reports the particulate count for, I think, 6 groups. So you would use them in a particulate distribution histogram, but we are now using the histogram to bring a comparison between these different kinds of fields, the PM classes. You could, for example, also colorize them. Let's do that. Looks maybe a bit better. And under appearance, we want to have a grid, but we probably also want to change the name and call this PM distribution. Save. And now I'm going to put this here into the left free space. Next, we also want to provide a location. The Walter actually has a GNSS module built into the modem, but we can also use some manual locations for this. I'm going to add, first of all, a map widget. We call this device location. Right now, there's no location field assigned to that device. So because this is starting from a new device and not coming with a template, we of course need to add a location field to the actual device. Let's go into the configuration, scroll down until we reach to the field section, add the field, and this field is a geolocation field called location. Add this field and we can see, okay, this has been added to the dashboard now. Let's go back to dashboard and back into edit mode, and then we can go into our device location widget. Under data, we can actually add the location. Save this, and if I exit the edit mode, it now says that there's no location recorded, so we can go ahead and actually search for the address. And I think, because I see that the location here is set to Nokkeheist, I don't know how to pronounce that, sorry if I pronounced it wrong, and we can click on that, and we now have the actual location recorded. And there's something more we can do because it's zoomed in really hard now. We can go into appearance, manual start location, skip the manual start location, and just provide a different zoom level. You need to save in order for this action or setting to take action. And I also prefer the outdoor style. Save this. Okay, 7 is maybe a bit too hard. Let's put it into 11 again. Okay, this looks great. So we can see it's directly at the coast. Nice place. Yeah, and now you have added the location also to this dashboard. It looks way better than from the beginning. There's even more. For example, I'm just going to tackle this very quickly, but PM values, more or less, so what the World Health Organization says is that you need to watch them on an average value. Right now, the fields are storing the current measurements, so the last data recorded, and the value widgets are actually showing the last measurement that was recorded. What we can do is we can go into the widget and actually let's duplicate this here, and we can go into the widget. And under time frame, we can select a time frame operation. And in here, we could, for example, select average. And I want the average from the 8 hours ago up until now. This now is the average about over the last 8 hours of recorded values. There's more operations, like the sum, which makes no sense because it summarizes everything here. And this is not for a sensor value. We also have the change, the absolute change, but also the change in percentage. So that means we now have an increase of 85% over the last 8 hours. For sure it says micrograms still, but you need to check the unit here and put, for example, percentage value in there. Let's bring it back to micrograms because I want to deactivate the unit, the gauge. And then on the time frame, select the average. Save this. And now we have added the PM10 average. Save it. In terms of design, it needs to be a bit optimized, but we can leave it like that. Just to showcase you how you can use various kinds of options of the value widget for bringing in maximum, minimum, and averages. Okay, but there's more. There's we can derive an air quality indicator based on the PM2.5 and PM10 values. And there's actually multiple ways to do that. And one of the most easiest way without the need of any code is to create a mapping field and a lookup table. To do that, we're going into the configuration. Scroll down a little bit until we reach to the field section, and we can see these are the fields. We have PM1 to PM10, and you can see that there's a context menu, which brings you a couple of actions that you can do. So for the PM10 field, it would be possible to add a mapping field. So what is a mapping field? A mapping field is basically something that scales the value range to a different value range. You could use it for a linear scale, a factor, but also for a lookup table. And we are now going to select the type, and instead of float or integer, we want a Boolean. And now we call this PM10 air quality indicator. And now because it's Boolean, we just have true, false. And now the lookup table just gives us one input. This is less than or equal. So if, for example, the World Health Organization says, okay, if it's above 50, the air quality is considered bad, you would type in 50. Because if it's below or equal 50, needs to be 49 then. If it's below or equal 49, everything is okay. So no air quality indicator. By the way, let's call this air quality alarm. So if it's below or equal 49, the air quality alarm is false. But if it's above 49, 50, the air quality alarm is true. You can see this here in this graphical representation. We add this field, and as you can see, this is now added as a mapping field. This is set to false because it's 2.28. Now, we can use this actually on the dashboard. Scroll down to the top, go to Dashboard, click on Edit Mode, Add Widget, and in here we're going to add Boolean fields. Now we select Data, and then we can see, okay, this is the PM10 air quality alarm. Then we go into Appearance. First of all, change this PM10 air quality alarm. And then we go into Appearance. The on text basically is air quality, well, let's say yes. Let's make it easy. And no. Or all fine. We can also override the on color, which is usually derived from true false, but we want to invert it. So if it's false, everything is green, and if it's true, it gets really red. You can also colorize the widget based on the actual state color, but I prefer not to do it because it looks more, clean if we don't do it. Okay, now we place this, but we can see, okay, now it looks great. We have an air quality alarm that's based on the PM10. So maybe it also needs to be somewhere here. But then there's a little bit of mess on the dashboard. So we need another Boolean field, and we do have the option now to create mapping fields for all of these. But instead, what I'm going to do, because I'm lazy right now, I just wanted to show you how everything works. We have the online status as well. And the online status is actually derived from the online status from the platform. So we can go again here. We don't need to select a data source. We can go directly here into Appearance, and we can say online and offline. We leave colors, everything else like it is. And this is basically like a Boolean and working exactly like a Boolean, except for that it is working with the online-offline status directly from the device. Last but not least, what I also often do is I'm going to add a headline to separate groups. We can call this headline status values. Always select size number 3 because that cleans it up a little bit. And then I'm changing the tag color to, for example, a blue value. And then I'm putting in some transparent values, so alpha channel. And I'm not going to hide the background, or I'm not sure. Let me see. Yeah, this looks great. Status values. And then we can bring this one here and call this, like, for example, live measurement values And once more and call this one trends or whatever you want to call it. You can also colorize the actual widgets and group them based on a color, for example. But this makes a little bit more separation between those. And what you also should not forget is to set actually is if you are in the edit mode, you see we have mobile and desktop. The mobile dashboard was created before, but we could create from desktop now because we have made changes. And basically then arrange these so that everything fits and also, makes more sense. 1, 2.5, 4, and the PM10 average, the trends, and of course the location. Now, if you want, you can create a public link that this has been created already. So this has been created already. You can scan it now also with the Datacake app. But let's go back to the actual dashboard. And this is the fastest way how you can pimp your dashboard to look a little bit more like this. There are a couple of more options. And also it would be possible to combine the PM1, PM2.5, PM4, and PM10 to derive an air quality alarm that's based on thresholds for each of those individually. But this is a topic I'm going to cover in another video because that is not possible without doing any code. But all the things that I just showed to you were just done without the need of any code. Last but not least, I want to show you a super helpful widget. If you are having a device that has lots of sensor options or lots of measurement fields, we do have the option to add a device fields widget, which basically you can select all of the fields that are on your database for that device and then basically show them directly in an overview. This is helpful if you want to debug things or work really quickly and create a couple of dashboards in a super fast time. There are some more options like downlink widgets, switch widgets. They all work with sending things back to devices. There's an image widget. We can maybe talk about this really quickly. If there would be a photo for the device, you can upload an image manually, or you can use the device image. The device image is something that you set on the actual configuration of the device. Going to save this here, just leaving it, but deleting it because I have no image assigned. But the device image is something that you set on the configuration. In here, you can set an image next to text and metadata and so on. And that image is then used on the actual device image widget that you set here on the dashboard. But yeah, that's it. That's the first episode of how you can tweak your dashboards to look nicer. In the second version, I'm going to talk you through how we can implement alarm fields based on any of those measurement fields and how you can use decoders instead of mapping fields and configuration fields. Thanks for watching and stay tuned.